Now, okay. Hello, welcome to the Comedians of Wrestling podcast. I guess this is our bonus slash emergency. I don't know what you want to call this podcast, but I got Erin Infinity, the first lady.
What up?
What up?
What up?
And the supermark, the architect, Nick Tullo.
Yo, yo, what's going on? Happy Day.
And I feel like we were just gonna kind of jump on the horn here. And just I think this episode is the bonus episode that I was gonna put out today, but I'm gonna put this on the main feed because there's just a lot to talk about since right after we recorded the main podcast. This whole everything has just exploded in the wrestling world. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, which is possible, but also this has been very mainstream news.
Yeah, I said in a text to Dan earlier, like my next door neighbor, we were hanging out on the roof last night, and the first thing he said to me was like, "Oh, I saw all these wrestlers got let go," and like he doesn't watch wrestling or anything. So
Yeah, yeah, and it was I saw Anderson Cooper during this global pandemic discussing WWE. It's kind of it's a little bizarre, and also a little not bizarre. It's also like our whole political landscape in this country for a long time has become very eerily similar to pro wrestling, to the point that and I have jokes about it, but like to the point where now actually our government actually is pro wrestling. Donald Trump, a WWE Hall of Famer, also has Vince McMahon. Linda McMahon was in his cabinet and now runs a re-elect Trump super PAC. And you can literally see a picture of the full McMahon family in the White House with Donald Trump, and Vince McMahon is on the Reopen America, whatever it's called, committee for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is saying the great Vince McMahon. And in a way, good for Vince. He's getting the respect that he has always wanted, I feel like, in a way, But okay, so anyway, if you haven't seen the news, many WB talents
many beautiful talents
behind the scenes. Pro wrestlers, in ring talent, behind the scenes, every level, producers. There have been significant layoffs or furloughs, was what they're calling most of them. Although, from what I'm hearing, a lot of these, it feels like a lot of these positions are not. It's not like furloughed, where I've heard people who've gotten furloughed where it's like, the day you can come back in the office, you're back in.
Yeah.
I'm not reading anything that is saying that. What I've read is that they said, we believe, due to the strength of the company, that we believe this will be temporary in nature. But we all know a lot of these wrestlers are never coming back to WWE.
Right.
Which is just also, and that'll be part of this discussion today, is a lot of that is the nature of the business as well. A lot of these talents have short-lived lives in wrestling, and there's some area to discuss that as well. But before we open it up to more of a broader discussion and how we're feeling, I just want to get some facts out there of stuff that I'm reading, which is, you can look up the list. We don't need to read every single talent. Well, maybe we will at the end, but I'm not going to read every talent right now.
We'll have a moment of silence for the superstars who've been released. I'll read the list.
But they're saying that WWE said it's reducing executive and board members' compensation. They're decreasing operating expenses. They're cutting talent expenses, obviously. Third-party staffing and consulting. They're basically cutting across the board. They're deferred spending on the building that they were building. They were moving out of Titan Towers into a new Stanford location, a bigger, better one, that they're putting that on hold for at least 6 months. And they have not run house shows in over a month. And they said all these measures will save them $4 million a month, along with cash flow improvement of $140 million, primarily from the deferral and spending. Saying most of the cash flow improvement comes from halting the building of the other building. I'm just getting this out there. And another element that is worth noting is, according to Dave Meltzer, he says that WWE has $500 million in cash reserve, and they were still on track to significant profit in 2020, and they don't have any debt issues currently. So I think that's pretty much most of the information that any just factual statistic information you guys have heard that I didn't cover there.
That was a pretty good overview.
I think you covered just about it. I mean, that sounds about
Right.
everything that I knew of. Yeah.
And so I think where I kind of want to, I think, look, I'll just kick this off by saying, like, you know this podcast, if you listen to this podcast, we're not the news. I started this podcast to not be just wrestling news. I find that the sheets, if you will, I find that to be less fun. This podcast has always been about celebrating merch, calling wrestlers one of your guys. You know, we're trying to capture that moment of when a wrestler does something and you're like, did everybody see this? Is everybody feeling this? Is everybody, you know what I mean? Like, does anyone see this? Because those people are few and far between, really. I mean, when it comes to the broader schemes of our lives, you don't go into the office like a sport. Even that, which, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but we can get into the fact that, like, half of those people are pretending to like sports too. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of those people, but it's very socially acceptable to be like, oh wow, did you see the QB? I mean, the amount of fake conversations I gotta have about Tom Brady, a guy I couldn't give two shits about my whole life. You know, but I probably had 10 or so non-ironic conversations about how great Tom Brady is. I don't know anything about Tom Brady, okay, except that I think he's 40 something and still doing his thing. All right, but the greatest thing about Tom Brady is that he was also heading to Tampa, just like we were 4 weeks ago. You know what I mean? That was the greatest thing about Tom Brady, is that he was. Sounds like he was also TDIT.
Yeah. R.I.P. TDIT.
Yeah,
He was truly touching down in Tampa.
Yeah, he was TDITB, touching down in Tom Brady. But okay, so but what I'm saying is that, like, that's what so it's interesting. Like, I always I almost don't even know what to say when this stuff gets serious, because I'm like, you know, even when, like, the first thing comes to mind is when Roman Reigns comes out saying he had leukemia back. It was leukemia was back, and you're like, wow, well, it's more fun to just rip on his vest, you know? And then I'm like, oh, well, yeah, he's a man. But that doesn't – I think given that we have a lot of listeners of this show and people turn to us for wrestling content, I think I'm not going to sit here and turn a blind eye to this whole situation. That being said, I'm going to try to be as honest as possible. And I know this stuff is very sensitive for people, and I know we're all heightened, our sensitivity and our political beliefs and all that stuff is more at the forefront of our minds. So I'm just giving you, like, a warning. I don't know. We're going to give some honest opinions in areas other than just, like, this guy's trunks. Then, like, Cody's trunks were baggy this week, and I didn't appreciate that.
Disclaimer, folks. We're about to get real.
Right.
Yeah.
But so, you know, when you hear this, I'll start it off by saying this information. I think that if I'm being honest with this situation, this is a terrible thing. There's no way to say this is not terrible. People losing their jobs is terrible. These are people's lives, and there's no way there's no way around it. And not to mention, like, it's hard to separate these layoffs from the thing that we've been trying to record this podcast, and we're not turning a blind eye to it, but we're trying to have fun at a time where it's not really fun, where we know these wrestlers are now going to do live television, flying in from all over the country weekly, when none of us would go even near an airport right now, but we expect these talents to all basically kiss each other on a mat, you know. You know, there's no actual kissing, but you know what I mean. They're getting just
sometimes, maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, sometimes
not anymore so much, but
when the writing's good, I mean, folks. But but right, like, they're not social distancing in any way, shape, or form, and the company in no way is protecting them. They could say all they want that they're protecting the talent, but we know that these guys, we know some of these wrestlers. I have friends who are wrestlers. They're taking an Uber to the airport. right? They're going in the terminal, they're flying, and then they're going to wrestle other guys who live in another part of the state, maybe a hotspot, right? If Finn Balor's a guy, we know he lives in Brooklyn, right? So if Finn Balor's in the shit, right? Like if we saw him, I'm not saying we have, but like we know wrestlers are in the thick of it. So they're not being protected in that way, right? So they're not protected in the ring, whether they want to say that or not. But we know that protects Vince McMahon's pocket, right? That's something we do know, is that we know for sure that his contracts say that these are live shows. He's allocated like 2 or 3 non-live shows a year. And this keeps him in good standing with his contract, where many other companies, the NBA, other sporting, are breaching their contracts in good faith, knowing, hey, this is the right thing to do by our talent, right? But now all of a sudden WWE wrestlers are considered essential workers. There's really but then many wrestlers here, when the shit hit the fans, are not essential at all to the company. So I think it's so we know for one thing for sure, which is that Vince McMahon is looking out what's best for Vince McMahon. That's one thing that's just happening. Now, you can make the argument, I'm not an expert on this, you make the argument that what's best for Vince McMahon, especially if you're a trickle-down person, what's best for Vince McMahon is best for all the wrestlers because he pays their checks and whatnot, right?
Right.
So, and that's true. And a lot of these wrestlers, are, you have Kurt Angle, right? They let Kurt Angle go. He doesn't wrestle right now, right? So you make these arguments.
He's credited as a producer
right.
on the list.
Right. So he's a producer. I didn't see him. I saw him in the wrestler column. That's why I didn't think he was producing. Obviously, it makes sense he's a producer, but I never saw anything that he was a producer.
Yeah, I don't know, but he's listed on this one list as a furloughed producer.
Yeah.
Well, he's the most shocking guy to me because you're like, he's got to be the most protected of all.
Right.
You think like he's Kurt Angle, right? You think
maybe he like raised his hand and was like,
I'll go
save this spot for someone else who should still be here. I don't know.
Right, but I think so. That's where I think you're hitting on what I'm going to like, and that's where you're hitting my point, which is that there's a lot of information we don't know, right? Yeah. And that's what causes, which we'll get into after this. We'll talk about Seth Rollins and why people were so upset with him and whatnot, but we don't actually know. We're not actually, we have to take a step back and understand, like, we don't actually know the day-to-days of WWE, and we know that it hurts to let a lot of these guys go, but there's tough calls that have to be made right now in this time, and I don't know. I can't say that they should have kept all these talent. I just can't. I can't totally say that. But the thing we can say, the thing that we do, like when I look at it and I go, all right, I'm not a guy. I'm not in there. I don't know the exact finances here. You could make my guess is they could afford to keep a lot of these guys, and probably the people at the top would be fine. More than fine. That would be my educated guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have a portfolio of Vince McMahon's debt and whatever. I don't know. But I do know that the whole thing stinks because
it stinks on ice.
Right. Because, and then I'll make this point, and then I'll open up to you guys. It's like, what does stink is the timeline of WWE being of professional wrestlers being labeled essential workers. It's tied. The timeline does not look good. It does not look good, and it's pretty fucking mafioso and scandalous when you look at it. And when it comes down to that, they're actually gambling with the lives of WWE talents, and that's when I'm like, I want to see. This is what I always say. I want to see, like, I know I'm never going to be able to see this. Let me see some hard numbers. If your thought is, look, we're not like NBA. We don't have the reserves of the NBA, right? We don't have those kind of contracts, those apparel contracts and blah, 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 whatever, which they've never said. But I'm saying, let's say I'm thinking of what's the PR, right? What is it? If the argument is like, well, We don't have that. We're more carny, if you will, right? We're less legit than those guys. Then I want to see that, like, look, these wrestlers are better off in the ring. We can pay them. We need the income from there to pay them, or else we're going, right? But
Right.
it doesn't feel that way, right? It feels
No.
as if let's just keep the money generating and let's do what's right for us. And I can't imagine that during a global pandemic, it's the best look for WWE to be pushing through here and being so blatantly criminal, you know? I mean, I guess they're legal. It's more like, I said mafioso because it feels more like organized crime than actual crime here. But
Right.
this governor of Florida is the shadiest, dumbest motherfucker. If I mean, this guy, I gotta say, I just have to say, that guy is such a moron. Just listen to him talk. He sounds like a fucking moron. I can't. I don't know what it is with governor. You can really coast into the governor spot being a complete jabroni in this.
Right.
You know, Sarah Palin was a governor.
Of Alaska, of a very large
Yeah,
geographically state.
like, but Sarah Palin, I mean, look, in comparison, this guy makes Sarah Palin look like, well, that's going to be political. I don't want to say that. Who's just someone slick on, like, I don't know, like CM Punk on the mic or whatever, right? So, yeah, anyway, that's the thing is that, like, I understand that there has to be, like, cuts across the board and whatnot. I totally get that. And if you look at a lot of this talent, they're not totally utilized talent. You can't say to me, like, it's surprising that they let No Way Jose go, right?
Right.
And when times are down, you know, so I understand that. It's not like they didn't, you know, the highest, you know, the only surprising guy on the list in my mind is like a Rusev, because he's had like serious storylines lately.
Yeah.
Right? And in terms of like this freeing up all this money, but but it is like the whole thing is, it's everyone I know outside of WWE is coming up to me and being like, "What, Dan? Like, what's going on with this place?" You know,
Right.
and it's frankly, it's like something that I actually stand up for and like, you know, I stand up for it in terms of my reputation. I mean, I go on stage and like say how much I love this thing. I encourage people to like rock merch and stuff like that. And then this is the most, I don't even give a shit. You can wear, more embarrassing than rocking tassels and no shirt is like this, where like there's just a blatant disregard for humanity. And it's to be honest, it's very tricky. And like, look, I understand this is really, I'm not making this a WWE AEW thing, but AEW at least get backlogging taping and like taping and limiting travel. At least there's some care there, right? I'm not saying that it's right. We could argue that, you know, you could argue it's wrong here and there, you know, but at least there's like, it feels like that is like, hey, we're gonna like take the, I mean, we had WrestleMania happen. It's been like nonstop. You know, there's been like not that much sacrifice except for ticket sales for this company. But there's been, all these wrestlers were backstage at that WrestleMania till like a day ago.
Right.
All exposed. It's not like you let them go when this started. No,
Yeah.
you've been flying them in and out, you know.
I mean, they put like Gallows and Anderson in the Boneyard match. Like they were just a part of WrestleMania. Like it's bad. It stinks. It's really, really grim.
Well, I was thinking about that. The value that they put on their tag division is so low. If I've ever had proof of my theory about WWE's tag division, this is it, which is like, I bet, how many of these guys have been tag champs? Almost all of them?
Yeah.
Like, you want to see why tag trials don't matter? Look. So, anyway. Okay. So I think it stinks. You know, it's tricky. Vince McMahon, I've never had a more conflicted relationship with a guy in my life, because what a talent, man. I mean, you cannot, you know, talk about separating the man from the art and blah, blah, blah. The guy is a genius in so many ways, you know. I mean, and I bet all these guys who got fired would talk about his genius if you put them on a microphone. You know, like, it's not even in question. But how much of a genius can you be when when like when you don't care about humanity, you get into the. Listen, I'm gonna go into real dark territories if I go down this way. But it's really like me. Like I was gonna turn on NXT, and I was like, I can't watch NXT right now. Like I feel like maybe I need a day. Maybe I'll go back on it. But I was like, it's like, what is this? It's like, what does this place stand for? I don't. I know it's tricky. I understand that. I do, but I don't feel it though. You know what I mean? So I don't really know. I could go back on this. I don't really, that's why I'm talking a lot. Like I'm just saying a lot of words because I'm like, I don't even know. I have these facts, and I'm not saying that these companies don't have to make tricky decisions. But every time it's something like where it's like, oh, well, the only thing that matters is, like, look, they're still going to show significant profits, and they were down Q4, and now they'll report fine earnings by cutting back over here or there, and just during this time, it doesn't feel great, and especially all of it. You can argue all this to me. The thing that I go back to is finagling these talent to be essential workers.
That's the part that is really truly mystifying in this whole thing, because there's no reason that any sports entertainer is considered essential when you have people who are, who make movies, who are newscasters, who do all actual important stuff that is essential, who aren't working right now, or who are reporting for NBC from their bedrooms like we are. Like, Department of Homeland Security defines essential media in the communications category as like frontline news reporters, cameramen, people who support television. None of that includes wrestlers. And so the fact that Florida somehow decided that wrestling is essential stinks. Like, it reeks of something that is very corrupt and wrong. And I think that is especially tricky because it's like, it's like all these things adding up. Like, there's the Saudi thing that we've all been conflicted about. And then this is so wrong. And it's like, I think they're really putting people's lives, like their talents' lives, the people who make them money, in jeopardy to keep going. And it's like, you fired these people, you release them, but you're still putting the people you didn't release at risk. Like, what if they get sick? What if a lot of people get sick? Like, this is more of a stain than anything. And I think that it could potentially hurt them if things go wrong. And I mean, it's going wrong already because people are canceling their network subscriptions. I want to cancel my network subscription, but I don't feel that I really can because we do this show. But I'm not proud. It is something that pains me to have to continue to support financially.
Well, I mean, I think that I feel like to make this about us. I feel especially in a tricky spot because I'm trying to be honest with myself, which is like, well, this is a significant part of my life, this podcast and this community. Yeah. And I think that it's like, I do feel like, oh, well, I would love to send a message to WWE that, your talent's health matters more to me. To be honest, I care less about the layoffs than I do about the essential worker situation.
Well, yeah, same here, because it's like that sucks, but I think that those people are actually being taken out of harm's way by being released, because they can they can do their thing, and then their names, like someone will pick them up and they're free to do whatever they want. They're out of this weird contract. But the fact that talent who we know must wrestle to get paid are now going to be forced to travel, to be together, to be coming together from different parts of the country is not okay. It's it's potentially hazardous and really dangerous for everyone involved.
Well, I would say along these lines too, is that if this situation happened when none of this was going on and all these workers got laid off, it would be a great time for wrestling, because finally, instead of hoarding all this talent, WWE, and never using them and only fucking doing stuff, now all these new wrestlers have this opportunity. AEW is there. There's nowhere for them to go.
You're saying in the start of, and I just want to clarify your point. Are you saying that because when AEW came out, they started buying up all this talent and just having like a guy like an EC3 just sitting in the locker room doing nothing? Yeah,
sure.
you're saying like, so now the second that they're disposable, it's like, okay, well now there's nowhere for you to go. We'll let you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's
Right.
to me is what bothers me the most. And I said it to some people. It's like I feel like this would be such an exciting time for wrestling that
Right.
all these guys like Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, who have a wrestling school and do all this other stuff, can now go onto the indie scene and do a run and reinvent themselves. Like
Absolutely.
there's no indie wrestling going on now. So now it's just truly a complete cut. Like, and they have this fixation on wrestlers that work for them, that like WWE is the mecca to them, and they get there, and when you get under Vince's in good graces, you become like, you think there's nothing better than WWE. And now all these guys are just getting, and women are getting just their legs cut out from underneath them. And by the time this is all done,
Yeah.
right, and maybe we go back, the only place for them to go would be back to WWE. So they might have just been cut for 6-7 months. And then,
I mean, yes, these wrestlers right now should be having discussions privately about unionizing.
Yes.
100%. A wrestling union is something I would support 1,000%. Pro wrestlers need some kind of support from this industry that we've seen. How many more years are we going to see wrestler talents just be completely expendable? Now, that being said, like, you know, like you could make the argument, you know what you're signing up for, and wrestling is a gamble, and this and that, and also the indie scene is thriving. We're just kind of in a unique spot right now where, you know, by letting these guys go, they can't work at all, you know,
Yeah.
And they can't
And
receive benefits. They're not getting paid.
right.
They pay their own taxes. Like, this is dire straits for some of these people
Right.
who.
And the out-of-pocket
cut.
expense for a WWE star, I imagine, is higher because they're all 1099. So that means that they pay their own health insurance
Yep.
at higher premiums than than other guys do.
Yeah.
And so I bet a lot of these, so look, it's not an easy life. These guys know that when they sign up for it. I know that as a comedian. I understand the every day, not a day goes by, talk about me, my friends who are, the conversations we have is like, well, what are we doing to ourselves? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and that's even from successful people because of
Right.
how crazy Wild West this stuff can be, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly fighting for this and that and blah, blah, blah. And you work in a subjective field regardless of anything, right? So it's like, you do, you do paperwork or something. It's like, well, is it filled out? Yes. Good. Well, then, someone has to tell you your thing's good. You know it's good. Whatever. But I'm saying the plight of the creative is a tricky thing. And the thing about it is that for so much to go WWE's way, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, so much goes their way, and then at the same time to be kind of reckless with the talent like this during this time, and nothing came out, which is like, I mean, nothing I've seen, at least. Maybe someone could correct me on this about what they're doing for these talents, like how long they'll be paid for, and right, anything about stipends or anything about severance. And blah, blah, blah.
No, I was just thinking that as you were saying. I didn't
I
hear
don't
a
know.
single thing. It
I'm
doesn't
sure
seem
that-
like they're getting anything.
Yeah, and I'm sure even they're probably like barred from maybe speaking about it. Who knows? Who knows what they're allowed
Right.
to say, what they aren't?
Because
I'm
in my
sure-
mind, what's tricky here is that it's not good for me to, I would love to do things with WWE. You know what I mean? I've spoken with WWE before. But are we the only line of defense? It feels like sometimes the podcasts and the sheets and the Meltzers and are actually the only line of defense for these guys. They don't have a union. All they have is our dollars, right? It's like, where we go? Like, you forget we had the whole like give divas a chance thing. Remember? Like that hashtag about like the women started being upset that they're like, we get 5 minutes of airtime and that's it every week, and then that hashtag went viral, and then they started getting more. Even small things like Daniel Bryan, whatever. Yeah, those are kayfabe, whatever. But there is power to your voice and to social media. So I mean, that being said, us not watching these guys, does that help them either? Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, especially when they know us, like if us stop doing this and stop talking about how great Aleister Black is, for example, a guy who's going to continue to work during this, right? Is that going to help? I mean, right now we have who are the champions right now? Strowman. I can't remember who the other champion is. Who's the Raw champ? Oh, Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre.
We have 2 new champions. They need us to support them.
Well, that's the tricky thing, because it's like you'd feel bad for supporting this company, but then there are talent who you continue to support, like Dolph Ziggler.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, friend of the show, friend of Dan's. Like, this is someone who I care about their well-being, and I want them to keep working,
Right.
and I want to keep watching them and being a fan. But it's hard to kind of reconcile that when you're conflicted about giving money to this company or giving them your time and merch money and stuff like that. It's really tricky.
And in that way, they have a stronghold on it, and they got us by the balls in that way, right?
By my balls.
Absolutely, by your balls.
By my balls.
Major reveal here on the pod.
Heavy hangers, folks.
But I'm saying, like, in that way they do, because the reality of that situation, but that goodwill has been something that Vince McMahon and the WWE has really pushed, and to the point where someone like me, I am a big supporter of AEW, because I urge people on here. I can't even believe I've said this before. I took WCW for granted. Okay, I took it. I was a hard WWF guy. I mean, I was a kid, I was a hard WWF guy. I turned it into a war.
You were staunch in your beliefs as a young man,
right? And now, not as a war. Now it's a place for. Look at it now, Rusev, a guy who deserves to like really get his proper moment right in the sun. I mean, besides the tank. But so who deserves to really find it. He's a guy who, if you, in terms of getting over with a crowd, has done all the work you can do. And Rusev's not one of my guys either, personally. But I'm saying he's a very talented guy. Great, he has AEW, which is a legitimate company where he can land. So it's like I think this thing where like people are like, oh, you could say blah 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 about AEW. I think to me AEW. I give it the benefit of the doubt because it's like a budding new company that is another place for wrestlers to land. Yes. Them also wrestling is not right either. Like if you want to get down in paper in the sand, but also WWE is all wrestling in general. Pro wrestling is not a real business. They always call it the business. It's like it's the business. It's like what they mean by the business is the lack of business. Like it's like these guys have to wrestle or they get nothing. So we could argue that you could keep wrestling,
Yeah. I mean, and that's a thing because it's like the business. It's like, well, real businesses with much less money and resources than WWE have allowed their employees to stay home and continue collecting a paycheck, which I think is the right thing to do no matter where you work. But WWE has all this, and instead it's just like, well, you're fired. But those of you who aren't, like, you must put your life at risk and the risk your families and your coworkers to continue working and receiving a paycheck. Like, that's dirty business. Like, that's not.
And the crazy part is that they all are like, okay.
Yeah, they are probably obligated to be on the internet like, yeah, I'm okay with it. But you don't know, like, these people who do have families and parents and stuff like that who could be affected, like I'm crazy. Sure they are not, because there's no one, I don't think, unless like the people who are complete fucking idiots who don't take this seriously and don't believe that it's a problem.
And for what I read is like I read reports before this hit. I read like, a very aggressive Vince had called guys and been like, "Yep, you're showing up this day." Like I think that's not how they operate. They operate from it feels like they operate from a place of bullying, of like, hey, like it's like even Roman Reigns, like that. You can even tell when you hear him. It was a huge move he made. It was huge. And look how late he made that call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yes.
not, and Roman Reigns pulled out. I mean, it's very well documented that that's a decision he made for him and his family, right?
Yes.
That is not a call that they were like, you know what? Roman, hey guys, Roman, he's got leukemia. Maybe should we give him a call? Now, look, that might be the case, right? That maybe that happened. Let's see it. Show
Right.
the WWE Universe, who has given you the benefit of the doubt forever. From me live watching Owen Hart die on TV, I watched from the 5th row, I watched draws get paralyzed, okay? I've literally given this company every benefit of the doubt. Give me a little reason to believe that you
know.
did some kind of inkling of the right thing.
Right.
But they don't.
There's nothing.
There
There's nothing,
Right.
and they're so sus at this point that I'm inclined to rarely give them the benefit of the doubt in this situation,
Right.
because their reputation is just like, you know how it works, you know how this is, you know how Vince is. It's like the fact that Roman pulled out so late
Right.
says a lot, because it should have been like, well, early on, like, let's smoothly get him out of here, not like let's in the 11th hour plug Braun Strowman into this. Like, they probably, you know, I don't know. It's hard.
It comes down to it comes down to power dynamics, you know, which is an annoying buzzword in these day and age, right? It's power, you know, you get caught up because frankly, it is an annoying thing to talk about. It's annoying to be like, because it's nuanced, it's gray area, it's hard to define, and you're like, I'm just trying to have like my business as usual, but you're talking about like, oh well, the power dynamic, so what this person said is not actually what they mean, and blah blah blah, and like we've seen it in really charged ways, like in sexual encounters and blah blah blah.
Right.
But let's talk about the power dynamics when it comes to this. A guy like Drew McIntyre is not going to say, I'm not showing up to wrestler. That's on you. That is on you to protect your guy. A guy that you deem to be worthy of your highest honor of the company. It's up to you to protect him. And that sucks. But also, you chose to make your company public and gamble, right? Like, that's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, so this is what I don't understand about society now. Is like, gamble. Every time the shit hits the fan, the guys who gamble are the guys like, oh, well, we're ruined. Yeah, you gambled. Like, I don't know, right? You know what I mean? Like, you could have been an accountant. The taxes got to get filed every year. No, you chose to do something that was semi-risky, you know? And that's why I hold that standard to WWE wrestlers. These guys getting fired. I've said it here. You wanted to be a wrestler. Like, you're gambling that you're going to be Stone Cold, you know? I mean, I'm gambling that I'm going to be fucking Chris Rock or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, there's a really good chance of that happening, to be fair.
Absolutely.
The next Chris Rock, like, your last name is Black. So I think
you gotta watch the wrestling. Anyway, folks. Wow, that was uncomfortable for everyone.
Whoa.
Hey, folks.
That was more like a Cosby, anyways. TBH.
Wow, it got even worse. It got even worse. You know.
Anyway, Mr.
Yeah, do the
Black.
hands though.
Yeah, absolutely. But well, if I was Cosby and I was a wrestler, I would say, Rudy Poo Candy Ass.
Yeah.
Folks. All right. Listen.
Hello. Anyway.
All right, whatever. So look, we're always looking at. No one wants to give WWE the benefit of the doubt more than me. You know, I mean, no one does, because I give this company my money, like a lot of my money. I love their product. I love what they do. I mean, it's been mediocre for a while, which is why I'm happy, like WWE, you know, I mean, they do things right and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, so look, how much are we going to tolerate? I mean, from, you know, from every standpoint, it's like, this is run like this, blah, blah, blah. I give them no benefit of the doubt. Them being named essential business, to look people in the eye and just be fine with that and be like, we're essential. Literally to put out a statement, all of them, to put out a statement. And this goes down to Triple H and his precious NXT as well. And, you're like, we're comfortable with a statement that says, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, especially with people need a diversion and this, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Let's talk about diversions. We don't need any more diversions, everyone.
Well,
It's
I mean,
okay.
he's got Fauci on TV now, Trump, saying that sports can go back to resuming as long as there's no crowd, and that as long as they take the necessary precautions. Why?
Wait, Dr.
Like,
Fauci saying that?
yeah,
Well,
happening live?
that's because Trump believes it, and he's putting all the heads of all the sports and all the entertainment things together, and trying to figure out a way to put things back to like get sports back on TV.
Well, listen.
So this is
Listen, if a guy like, I don't know, that's breaking literally as we're here, but if
it was on TV today.
That is a separate issue. Well, I know because they're going to be releasing their whole get back to work situation or whatever, the plan. That's separate than labeling them essential workers. Right? Like that's a completely separate like to hit a loophole so you keep your shows live.
That's
all these other
that's where I was getting at.
Right. And all the other shows were like all these other NBA and blah 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 are waiting for calls from a Dr. Fauci or a reputable person to be like, oh, how do we do it? How do we responsibly protect our players? To especially the NBA. NBA had two talents, two players. They're called two superstars.
Right.
Two superstars infected. So look. But what I mean by diversions is we don't need diversions. I actually don't believe. I don't believe in diversion personally. Like, yes, you need to get, but the diversions are the concept of like. I feel like it's too much. Like, oh, you need a break from all this blah blah blah. It's like, I think for the first time in a while, let's look. What you need is the truth in your head, and you need to reconcile the truth in a healthy way. So, for example, Seth Rollins comes out. This is what Erin was showing me. Seth Rollins, this guy. It's a bummer because Seth Rollins is one of my guys, and I actually think he means well. I just think he's not that bright. I don't know.
He's uninformed and he's completely tone deaf. And
right.
We've talked about this on the show before.
Was bright too harsh? He's just, you know what I mean?
No, it's not too harsh. It's actually pretty accurate. But I think like he is such a company man. And I think that his whole life is wrestling and he's a WWE superstar. So his whole life is the WWE. So it's like for him, he has blinders on that those of us who are out here in the real world don't. And I don't think that he sees things as they really are. And I think that he was speaking in earnest. I think that some of his sentiments were like real and good, but I also think that he said some things that were completely tone deaf to like the public and like the real world here that he should have not said at all. And he's just not that smart. So he did say them.
Had to mute Tullo because the guy. I think Milo's making ice cubes
Milo?
right now. I had to mute Tullo because the guy's making ice trays during your speech.
Yeah.
But listen.
Anyways,
look, I think it's like it's like he's not that bright. I think he's not. You know what? I don't like that. He's not that. He's tone deaf. He's not that informed.
Yes.
He didn't say anything so wrong, but what he did say is actually wrong in the worst kind of way. It's very similar to people who are like, let's not make this political. Which is always kind of like a diversion from truth, where he's like, you know what? Right now, everybody's suffering, and we all need to cut. Blah blah. No. That is how we avoid truths when we start being like, now is not the time. Blah blah blah. There's never a time not for the truth. Now, if you look at it like this, there's no such thing as too much information, right? Like there's actually like scientifically, there's no such thing. You can never collect too much actual data, right?
Right. It's do you want all the information or
not?
It's the problem.
Right?
Like,
can you
handle
it? Right? Like, so like think about it like this. Your personal finances, right? You have the times where you're like, I don't want to even sign into my bank account right now because that's gonna stress me out. But technically, you're better off knowing that information. Right. That's how much you know what's in your bank account, so that when you swipe it next, you know what's in there, right?
Right.
Now emotions get in the way. We need guys. We live in a different world. Emotions out of the way, and the facts of the matter are this, and they will come out. The facts of the matter are. this world is heating up. I'm gonna go there. Global warming is real. Okay, it is a real thing, and even if we can't fix it with this and that, blah blah blah, more stuff like this is gonna happen they're not. This is the conversation we're diverting, we're pushing off, but the world's changing. For a long time. We need to change the way this world works. We can't, and nothing needs to stay the same. So more facts. Read up about why about pandemics and all that stuff, but don't steer. Don't get. My advice to people: you can take it or don't take it. Is we don't need to go like, let's get through this moment. Yes, we need to like flatten the curve and all that. That's gonna happen. We have all that in place. But how do we change what we do,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do we change what we do? You think I like drinking out of this thing?
Well, I just feel like my mindset is starting to finally change, that
Right.
a lot of this stuff that's happening now is just the new normal. So like masks, how we shop and what we do and how we commute and how we get around and how we do everything. Like I haven't worked
Wear a
since,
mask, everyone.
yeah, I have one somewhere. Like I don't think I'll ever be comfortable going back to not wearing one again. So now my whole thing is, so the only thing that was like kind of getting me through it was the fact that, while at the same time I completely disagree with it, was that wrestling was still there. And then I was like, all right, well, I don't really support it, but it's there. So it's
Right.
kind of like a crutch that I'm still holding
Right.
on to, And then once again, it fucking let me down,
Right.
And now it just is like, all right, like this is it. Like, I there's no backing this up. Like I should be excited about all these people getting released, because I have said before that they need to like just get rid of this talent. Let this talent go other places and work and do it. You're not doing anybody service by doing any of that, So
Right.
And look, well, I know what you're saying. I think it's like, look, I'm not saying, it's all come down to global warming and blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying there's things that we need to think about, And I just encourage people to not get caught up in the, I think if you've listened to me this long by now, you probably in some way appreciate my point of view. And I don't think we need a lot of this, like we're all in this together talking blah blah blah. We just need to think about what's actually happening and how to
Right.
and
Well,
what's
and
the
it's
best course
like,
of action.
what's
And-
actually happening, and like what you as one individual can do to protect yourself and the people who are in contact with you. Like this whole, like, we're all in this together, wrestling is such a great escape, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, so is like reading a book and taking a nap, but like, you guys, like, this has to change. And like, wrestling is not kind of falling into line where the rest of us are really trying on an individual basis to make changes and stuff. And like, meanwhile, wrestling is like doing everything it can, like possibly like illegal stuff, to keep going, keep making money. It's ridiculous.
And so I mean, I think it's like, and just to look, I don't want to get too preachy. I'm just saying, like the Seth Rollins thing, just to circle back to that.
Yeah.
It's just that he starts saying stuff like, "Hey, now's not the time," and I think other people are hurt and blah 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 and all this stuff. It's like, this is the time for the question stuff. I'm sure some stuff I said here was someone could disprove who works at WWE, who has more information. Which is the first thing I said right at the top, is like, I don't have all the information. I don't know all this,
Yeah.
I don't
We're
know this.
speaking about what is out there right now and what we do know and our thoughts on it. We don't know. No one out there, even like those of you who may think that you have all the facts and your point of view is correct, like, you're as wrong as we might be. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know.
Right. And I'm kind of saying, like, but this is the time for me to question it. This is the time for us to look at it through a critical lens. You don't go like, because human nature is, the second we get back to normal, you're not, we're going to be like, oh, well, it's back to normal. And we'll get back into that comfortable zone, So it's kind of like right now it's the time to, let's think about this thing. And that's why we're doing this podcast here today. I hope more information comes out that that shows that where's Tullo going, bro? Where are you going?
I let my dog out.
He had to let his dog out.
All right, I gotta mute him. He's gotta get muted. But yeah, I hope more information comes out. I would I would love more than to be everything that we had a problem with. They're like, hey, it's cleared up. That'd be great. But I have a feeling that we don't. It doesn't seem like we're owed enough of this information, and we're the people support this company. You know, some of you guys are stockholders. If you want to break it down. So anyway, I think cool. I think we said everything we need to say. I hope a lot of these wrestlers end up in AEW. I have no problem.
Yeah.
I hope AEW has the funds. I hope. Because all I want is more wrestling. I want more content. I hope Tony Khan sees this as a time to invest. You know what I mean? These cons, cons got money, you know. And let's pick up some of these guys, you know, and let's get going. All right. So I think a couple things we could do is talk about more just the actual people who lost their jobs for a second.
Oh yeah, I have the listicle here.
And like as I said, I posted Ziggler's message, and then obviously one of you guys had to be like, "Why'd they keep that idiot?" and blah blah. You know, I can always count on someone.
Obviously.
You can always count on someone. And how could you ever say that? Yeah, some guy was like, "I can't believe they kept that ass clown." You mean he's one of the best wrestlers on the planet?
Well, his point.
Obviously, I'm biased.
Well, his point, which was incorrect, and Dolph himself like disproved on a podcast, was that every time they give that, maybe he said ass clown, an opportunity, he blows it. But in actuality, Dolph, I think, has said that he likes to put people over.
Yeah, check out the episode that we have had Dolph on.
If you listen to this podcast, the last one was good.
The last one he really went for. But let's talk about it. And so, like Ziggler was saying, already a lot of these wrestlers have shirts up on Pro Wrestling Tees. I encourage you to pick one up, especially if one of your guys got let go. Could there ever be a reason to find $20 to throw them for a T-shirt? It all adds up for them.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I do think. I mean, just talk about.
I'll give you Zack Ryder.
I'm looking at the list.
Cody put up a really nice post about Zack Ryder, and I thought it was like awesome. And it's just, you know, like you think about it, you're like, man, imagine what Zack Ryder could do. You know, like I'm having a tough time even going down this route and thinking like, oh wow, where are they? Because really, I don't foresee anybody doing anything. I don't see AEW signing anybody.
No,
definitely
AEW's not that.
Not
the
right
only
now.
guy I can see
definitely
them.
not.
I can see them immediately picking up the Revival and Rusev.
A guy like Leo Rush who would really shine over there, you know, like people like that.
They're definitely gonna buy. Leo Rush will 100% be signed. You know.
Yeah. Imagine him and Darby Allin. Like you think about these things, but it's you want to get excited about it, but the truth is that it's more than likely not going to happen right now, especially. And and if it does start to happen, that's probably a sign that everybody's coming back, like things are getting better, and then these guys are just going to fall where they fall, you know. But
yeah,
in the hindsight, a guy like Zack Ryder and the really nice post that Cody put up, like it's crazy, man. That guy's been around for a long ass time. He's been WWE for like 15 years. That's a long time.
Zack Ryder also, I mean, and Hawkins, two guys who I have, I've performed on Ziggler's stand-up show. You know, some of these guys have been on the show, and Ryder and Hawkins do them most of the time. And you know, I'm in the back. Sometimes I'm the only comedian on the show. Most of the time, there's a couple of us and whatnot.
I'll be right back.
But yeah, go for it. But these guys are always class acts, and they're so friendly to me in the back. Zack Ryder gave me a toy one time. He gave me an action figure and like one of their necklaces for their podcast.
Yeah.
And they you know, Zach, their podcast is big. They have a lot of fans, so these guys are going to be good. But yeah, it's not like they're dead. You know what I mean? These guys are good guys in good shape. Kurt Hawkins' school, when wrestling gets back and going, he's got a cool school going in Long Island.
Yeah, I would just say more so the fact that it's just like it's just like scary to think like how a lot of their minds went to like almost feeling like their career is over, like, and that sucks. Like, because
Well, that was Drake
honestly,
Maverick, right? Like
yeah,
Drake Maverick was like, "Yo, I'm probably never wrestling again,"
yeah, like
That's how he made it sound.
Yeah.
in your mindset, that might be it, or whatever. It's like it's tough to like. It kind of just made me more aware that like my future. Like I went through a situation where my boss had to call me up and be like, well, we can't put on events, so you don't have a job right now, unfortunately. And I was like, I completely understand, man. Like, I know, like, there's nothing you could do. I can't
Right.
work, That's what should have been happening with wrestling. Hey, well, we can't all get in places together and touch each other, so we can't be working. So a lot of people would be out of a job too,
Right.
So if wrestling wasn't happening and they weren't able to put stuff on TV, I'm sure they'd find other things and the contracts that they have. But
Right.
where would we be? Like what would be happening even now? Would more people be released? Who knows?
There's
Yeah.
no reason WWE can't pay people. I mean, they have so much fucking money to not be able just to
I
pay
know.
these people's paychecks for an interim basis is ridiculous. It's outrageous. And it's
Well,
like these guys don't make a lot of money to begin with. We all know that. Like you
Well, they're
can
talking
look up
about-
their salaries. Like
Yeah, they're
To
talking
me,
about
yeah.
freeing up $4 million for how long? What was it saying? Hold on, I have this right here. Yeah, so it says it will save $4 million a month. So, but I think most of that, along with cash flow improvement is how much of that $4 million a month is coming from salary,
right. And not only that, but you know what else would save a lot of money? If you
Yeah.
halted production for 4 months. You know what I mean? Like it's not free, even if you're using the performance center to put on shows. Like just keep paying your people, stop putting on a production, and like let people stay healthy and keep earning money. Like this is not the time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I actually that's where I don't know. I mean, I because I'm like, well, like then they lose all their TV contracts. Like, what's happening now in terms of USA, which is
Right back.
NBC Universal,
Right.
and
Well, that's I
and
mean
then-
like play reruns, show pay-per-views. Like there's a huge backlog of WWE content that people haven't seen. Like get
Right.
some network stuff in there. Like it would be possible to continue filling those time slots easily
right.
without putting on new shows. Like this is not should not be a it's just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, letting wrestlers go, furloughing them or whatever. Again, that we can argue forever. That we can argue that you can make an argument everyone's had to make cutbacks and whatnot. But the one thing is these wrestlers are flying in during a pandemic. That's just the
Yes.
one thing you think about is these guys are getting on planes from all over, possibly infecting each other. We don't have any. We don't have any. I don't know, and they haven't said anything about tests, right?
Right.
They don't-
Guarantee you there's probably zero testing. I mean, they're probably shining the temperature gun at people to see if they have
Right.
a fever, which is literally useless unless you're right now ill. But like,
Right.
you don't know. That's a problem. Like we can't even get together and record a podcast with 3 people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Mhm.
and we could sit far apart. Wrestling, you can't do that. Like it's not
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Listen, the whole thing, it is what it is. I don't, we can go, if they're going to allow live sports to happen, well, then that's one argument. Then I guess they're figuring out how to do it for athletes. But without these tests, I mean, I imagine every player needs to take that 15-minute test, which, by the way, they're saying is very flawed. So whatever.
Well, NBA, I bet you the NBA will spring if they anything. They'll probably spring for real testing, and they can probably, will probably
That's what I'm saying.
do it.
The
But
only way you
WWE
can
will not.
justify it is testing, right?
Yeah.
But then even if you're testing, someone slips through the cracks and then a bunch of them are sick, then it's like then they have to wait to what are we even talking about now? Now it's
Right.
well, the Dallas Mavericks, they're all sick, so I'm not exactly sure, but whatever. I imagine some experts will get into it and we'll figure it out. I'm just saying the whole thing. It's tricky. It stinks. I know we're in unprecedented this is unprecedented territory, but it would be nice for this what I would say is all this. It would be nice for this thing, this wrestling that I stick my neck out for sometimes, if it would be nice if they could get together with all these other NBA and NFL, if they all were like, hey, we're all have a plan together to do it, because that's what they're going to pretend now.
Well, that's what
Right.
that's
But
what
they've
I
been
heard
doing
is
it all
happening.
along, where the other companies have not,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I heard is happening, because now Trump's got Vince involved with some, getting the economy back,
Right.
to reboot. But the plan is that now that they've said that it's okay to like have sports, they're getting all the commissioners and everybody together, and Vince is part of that, and Dana White's part of that, and they're figuring out a way where they can do to make it work. Which it's just like the only way it works is if everybody that is involved only stays with each other, and they're all like, before they go into it, they've all proven that they haven't had it or don't have it. They don't see their families. They don't see, everybody just stays in one place, and they go and perform, and they come back. I mean, we're talking about the NFL that has 55 guys on a team, I mean,
Right.
we're not talking about little sports here. I mean, hockey and basketball maybe, but I mean, it just seems a little pointless, to be honest. I'd rather.
Yeah. So, okay. So Fauci said there's a way of doing that. Nobody comes to the stadium. Put the players in big hotels, wherever you want to play. Keep them very well surveilled. But have them tested every week. Make sure they don't wind up infecting each other or their family, and just play the season out. It doesn't even make sense to me.
Like, why? What's the point? Like, I haven't even really been watching as much wrestling now.
Listen, there's a lot of money on the line. That's what I'm saying. It's like, we have to get the economy going. We can't have everything go. We can't have everything be dead. I'm not saying people don't need. And by the way, I'm not saying people don't need sports to like have fun and blah blah blah. I'm talking about diversion, though.
Right.
I don't like the word diversion. We don't need diversion. We need to all accept truth, take in truth.
Yeah.
Diversion's got people killed, if you want to get into it. But yeah, so I'm saying, see, as long as we're still in a place, I just want to read this while we're here, but as long as we're still in a place where when a single individual tests positive for the virus, that you have to quarantine every single person who was in contact with them in any shape or form, I don't think they could begin to think about reopening a team sport, because we're going to have positive cases for a very long time. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand this. Again, I'm just saying this on speculation. What Tullo said, this feels like pressure from another place.
And if there is
that's
pressure,
exactly what it is.
And if there's
Right.
this pressure, like pro sports is a different ballgame. There will be people who will, if they are in any way pressured to perform and play sports, athletes will say no. I think that they're in a position and they're highly enough paid.
Well, they have unions. Yeah.
They have unions. Like, they'll do that, like taking a knee. Like, someone will stand up and do it, and it'll just be, it's different. I think wrestling is a whole different ballgame, because like you're WWE, because you're like beholden to this one guy who,
Right.
obviously has his priorities, and one of them is not like the health of anyone who works for him. So
yeah, I don't understand. It's like, I'm not allowed to go to like see my mom, right?
Yeah.
But these guys can all play each other, and they all live in different states. It's like, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? It's insane. It's non-essential. It is non-essential.
Everyone. So the thing is, like, it seems like, I don't know if I'm guessing, it looks like they're all trying to follow Vince McMahon's lead here, but at least they're doing it. At least they're not just doing it, because you can. So anyway, look, I think we said it all. I think it's just basically, this is all happening as it is. This information is changing. It is just like every single graph, all information that came from the top scientists and blah blah blah. None of it has been correct. The curve's operating completely differently, and this whole thing's changing as it is. Stuff we said here will not be right. Who knows? Well, we're going on instinct here, which is, man, it's a weird time to be a pro wrestling fan. We're all getting texts. Everyone's getting texts from people who are like, "Oh, you're my wrestling friend. What's going on with this?"
Right.
And man, the thing is, we don't know either. It's strange. So all we can do here is support the talent. That's all we can do. And that does come from, unfortunately, if you're someone who wants to, you feel really angry at WWE and Vince and the top executives and those guys. But not watching Drew's title run is probably, in the end, not helpful for him. And not buying his merch and blah, 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 I imagine will just wind up with Brock back in that spot in the second we're back to regular business, you know?
Right.
So, and like, you know, like a guy like Alistair, it's getting squash matches every week. Like, watch him tweet about him. It's not where it is. It's more putting that pressure, you know, letting everyone know, you know, how you feel with stuff like this, you know? I don't know. And then also buy merch of the wrestlers who got let go and support AEW. So it's not just one company that dictates how wrestlers are treated, you know?
Right.
Support independent wrestling, but also don't mix supporting independent wrestling with supporting AEW. AEW, I've said it before, AEW is a big deal, you know? It's a big deal. It's a big paycheck for wrestlers, you know?
Yeah, it's health insurance too. It's a lot of important things.
Yeah. So anyway, this was our thoughts on this. I'm interested to hear what you guys say. Keep posting on the Facebook group what you think. And I know you know, I know more information will come out. And this was, by the way, for the people who didn't know, this was the bonus. By the way, anything else you guys wanted to say, or did we cover it all? I think.
No. Keep on keeping on. Wear a mask. Wash your hands.
Yeah. But this was the bonus episode for this week. I'm gonna put it out on the main podcast because I think it's bigger than that. Me and Tullo might get together and do an AEW NXT episode as well. This was our recording time slot, so but we'll throw you something. Yeah, everyone, I think if you're comfortable, keep watching wrestling, and I think let's just be honest. That's all. That's where I would come to. Is like we can be honest about how we feel, and we can be honest about the fact that we're conflicted about it. We don't need to. I think that's where you run into a wall, is when you try to be like, I'm not watching now because of this. But you actually have mixed feelings about the whole thing, and it's more complicated than that. You know? I think we're like, I'm just going to take this hard stance. I think actually we're in a weird spot, and we have to remember how we feel now so that when we see an opportunity forward to change it, we find that gap. I don't know what that is yet. I don't know. Well, maybe that's sometimes down the line where a talent we really like decides they want to dissent from the company or blah blah. They want to do this, and then we get behind them. You know, we don't know what it looks like. You know,
right?
But looks like AEW.
It looks like Cody Rhodes. It looks like Cody Rhodes. It looks like Cody Rhodes.
American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
That's it. The man who, during social distance times, tried to joke kiss one of the other wrestlers.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
And that's the show. Oh my God, Dan! I was yelling out loud on the. I'm like, this guy's fucking kissing somebody.
I know, it's crazy.
Inappropriate.
I know. Wrestling still rules. What a weird. Hopefully this is the last episode like this, and I can go back to talking about why. What's he called? Killian Cross? What's
Yeah. Oh fuck! What was it called?
The Watchman. I don't know. I didn't see his debut yet.
It sounded like a song. Elizabeth Muller said something really funny. I feel like it was a Boston song or something. I don't know what it was. I don't know. It was on the page. It was really funny though. It's such a stupid name.
Here, NXT. I don't know what it was, but I thought it was Killer Mike, but it's something else now.
No, now it's Cross, right?
Yeah.
It's Killian Cross, isn't it?
I think it's
Killian
Cross.
No.
No.
Well, I know, but
are they both? Here, let's see.
Oh, Carry On my wayward son.
Yeah, Carry On. But it's like carrying, right? Because like carrying. This is
yeah.
For playing Magic the Gathering, you know what carrying is like. Carrying is like
carry on.
Like decay, right? Like carrying, like it's like a decayed. It's like a corpse or whatever, right? Like,
And
no.
Yeah.
Scarlett Bordeaux.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode. And if people are looking for this information, I think we covered it. We talked about how we feel as pro wrestling fans, which is we feel all over the place. So wash your hands and
we
cheers
feel
up.
not great. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.